My name is Alina. I'm 32 years old. I live in a small but cozy apartment on the outskirts of the city, and until recently, I would have sworn on my own heartbeat that I knew how to choose my friends. I work as a project manager in an advertising agency, which sounds fancier than it feels when you spend nights editing presentations and days soothing anxious clients. I never really minded, though. My life was ordinary, predictable, and I liked it that way. I liked knowing that my rent was paid on time, that my cat, Whiskey, would always curl up next to me in bed, and that my circle of friends was tight, loyal, and tested by years of secrets, laughter, and mutual support. At the very center of that circle was Dasha. Dasha and I met in college. We were both 19, insecure, slightly wild, and desperate to find someone who understood. She was my mirror back then, or maybe my opposite. Where I was cautious, she was reckless. Where I stayed quiet, she spoke so loud the whole room fell silent. I envied her fearlessness, her charm, the way she could convince anyone of anything with just a tilt of her head and that sly half-smile. Over the years, we drifted apart and came back together again like two boats tied by an invisible rope. Boyfriends, jobs, breakups, moves to different cities, none of it broke the tie. Dasha was always there when I needed her, and I like to think I was always there for her too. So when she called me one Sunday afternoon, her voice trembling, words pouring out in frantic gasps, I didn't hesitate for even a second. I remember every detail of that call. I was standing by my kitchen counter, stirring instant noodles, phone wedged between my shoulder and ear. It was raining outside, soft, warm rain that made the city smell like wet asphalt and blossoming trees. Whiskey sat by the window, flicking his tail at the raindrops sliding down the glass. "Alina, I don't know what to do," Dasha sobbed, her voice raw. I could hear traffic in the background. She was probably outside, pacing somewhere. They found something. Some mass. They said it might be malignant. I have to get tests done, surgery. Oh God, I don't even know how to say this. I put the spoon down. My noodles went cold. All I could hear was the panic in her voice, the tears she wasn't bothering to hide. "Where are you?" I asked. "I'm coming to you. Right now." No, I can't. I don't want you to see me like this. Please. Just listen. I need money. I don't have insurance anymore, you know that. I can't ask my parents, they don't have anything. And if I don't get the surgery, Alina, I don't know if I'll. She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. In that moment, the idea that Dasha could lie to me didn't even cross my mind. She was my friend. She was family in all the ways that mattered more than blood. So when she named the amount, an obscene sum that made my throat tighten, I still said yes. I spent the next week untangling my finances. I had a small savings account for my dream trip to Greece, the trip I'd been planning for 3 years. I had some stocks, a work bonus that was due in 2 months. I even asked my parents for a little help, spinning them some story about urgent repairs. They didn't ask too many questions. I canceled my vacation days, gave up the idea of lying on a beach in Santorini, and instead watched the balance in my bank account drain into hers. When I finally transferred the money, she called me again. This time she was calmer, almost herself again. She thanked me so many times I lost count. She said she didn't know how to repay me. She said she'd pay me back the moment she was better, that I'd saved her life, that she loved me more than anyone in this world. And I believed every word. In the weeks that followed, she was hard to reach. She said the treatments were exhausting, that the tests took forever, that she was at the hospital all the time. Sometimes she'd reply to my messages with short updates. "It's so hard but I'm fighting. Love you so much, thank you for everything. Can't talk now, so tired." I worried, of course I did. But I didn't want to pressure her. What kind of friend would I be if I demanded updates while she was supposedly fighting for her life? So I waited. I told myself she'd get through this, that she'd come out the other side and we'd go to Greece together instead, when she was healthy and whole again. A month passed. And then another. One sunny afternoon, just another ordinary Wednesday, I left work early because my brain felt like mush and I wanted to treat myself to an ice cream. I was walking down my street, lost in a daydream about flavors, when I saw it. A sleek, silver SUV. Brand new. The kind you don't buy when you're buried under medical bills. The kind you don't buy when you're supposedly recovering from a life-threatening surgery. The kind you definitely don't buy when you owe your best friend every penny she has. And there she was, leaning against the hood, laughing into her phone. Healthy. Glowing. Not a bandage in sight. My ice cream melted between my fingers as I stared at her. In that moment, something inside me went very, very cold. She didn't see me. Or maybe she did and just didn't care. She drove away in that shiny new lie, and I stood there on the sidewalk, sticky with melted sugar and betrayal. I didn't go home right away. I sat on a park bench for hours, replaying every phone call, every tearful plea, every thank you. I felt stupid. Angry. But mostly, I felt something hard and sharp take root in my chest. I knew I wouldn't just confront her. I wouldn't scream and beg for my money back. No, that would be too easy for her. Too simple. I decided right then, I would get my money back. I would make her confess to everyone. And I would make sure she'd never be able to spin her pretty lies again. And so it began. That night I didn't sleep. I lay on my couch, the TV flickering soundlessly in the corner, whiskey curled up on my stomach, purring in his oblivious feline way. But my mind was wide awake, spinning like a wheel stuck in mud. Dasha's laugh echoed in my head. The glint of her new car. The memory of her voice cracking on the phone, Alina, I don't know if God, she was good. I almost wanted to applaud her performance. Almost. But I wasn't ready to storm her apartment or slap her across the face in some dramatic showdown. No, I needed more. I needed to be certain, beyond the glint of the SUV and her healthy glow. I needed proof she'd lied, and I needed a plan that would tear the mask off her carefully painted face in front of everyone who still believed her. I started with small things. The next morning, I called her pretending to be the same naive Alina she'd tricked so easily. I made my voice small, worried, supportive. Hey, Dasha. How are you feeling today? There was a slight pause, just a beat too long. Then her familiar warmth poured through the phone. Hey, Lena. You're up early. I'm okay, just so tired. The treatments are brutal. I might need another round. I bit my tongue until I tasted blood. Oh, honey, I'm so proud of you. Do you need anything? Should I come over? Bring you soup? Another pause. A soft chuckle. No, I don't want you to see me like this. I look awful. I pictured her perfect skin, her fresh manicure as she draped her arm over the steering wheel of that shiny new lie. We talked for 5 minutes. She sprinkled her sentences with just enough medical words to sound convincing, but they were generic: treatment, tests, results. Nothing concrete. I asked which hospital. She dodged. I asked when the next appointment was. She mumbled something about the doctor rescheduling. When I hung up, I knew. She wouldn't have hesitated if there was even a grain of truth in her story. She would have been drowning in details, in complaints, in self-pity. But there was nothing, just the same performance on repeat. I needed to see for myself. That Friday, I waited outside her building. I called in sick to work. What was one more lie in a week like this? I watched her leave around noon, dressed to kill, sunglasses perched on her head like a crown. She didn't look sick. She looked radiant. She didn't see me. I slipped behind her in a cab when she got into her SUV. She didn't go to any hospital, she went straight to a fancy cafe downtown, where she sat for 2 hours, sipping overpriced lattes and laughing with some guy in a suit. I sat across the street behind a cafe window, pretending to read a book. I took photos. Lots of them. Her tossing her hair back, tapping her manicured nails on the table, hugging the man when she left, not a single sign of weakness. I started digging online that same night. I scrolled through her social media, looking for any clue she'd slipped up. Her posts were minimal, just the occasional vague quote about staying strong and fighting battles no one knows about. Disgusting. But in the comments, people poured out sympathy. Prayers. Little hearts and stay strong, girl. I wondered how many of them would hate me for what I was about to do. Then I found something. A comment from a woman I barely knew, Katia, an old acquaintance from college. She'd written, "You're so brave, I'm always here if you need anything like last time." Like last time? That tiny phrase was a pinprick in my brain. What last time? I messaged Katia that night. Hey, I know this is weird, but what did you mean by last time? She didn't answer for 2 days. Then, at 2 a.m. on a Sunday, she sent a single sentence. She said she needed money for her mom's surgery. I gave her 200,000. My hands shook on the screen. So Dasha had done this before. And probably not just once. I called Katia. She sounded exhausted, half embarrassed, half angry. She told me how Dasha had come to her 2 years ago with tears and trembling hands, begging for help. How she'd promised to pay it back once her mother recovered. Katia waited. The money never came back. Dasha stopped answering her calls for a while, then came back with new excuses, some new drama, some new tragedy. She's good at it, isn't she? Katia said bitterly. She made me feel guilty for even asking about the money. Like I was heartless for caring about it. We talked for an hour, swapping stories. By the end, we'd agreed on one thing: we needed to find out who else Dasha had spun her stories to. If there was Katia, there were probably more. I didn't sleep that night either. I lay awake planning. I wasn't just going to confront Dasha, I was going to gather every single person she'd duped, every sob story she'd spun, and I was going to make her stand in the middle of all of us and explain. But first, I needed to find them. I made a list, everyone I knew who was connected to Dasha. Old classmates. Co-workers from her endless list of short-lived jobs. Mutual friends from parties and weddings and birthdays over the years. I started sending messages, careful at first, testing the waters. Hey, hope you're well. Random question: did Dasha ever ask you for help with something medical? Some people ignored me. Some were confused. But 3 days later, I got my first hit, a guy named Ilya. He worked with Dasha for a few months at a boutique marketing firm. He called me instead of texting. She said she needed money for rent because she'd been fired unfairly and her landlord was kicking her out, he said, his voice dry. I gave her 50,000. Never saw it again. Next thing I knew, she'd quit and ghosted half the office. By the end of the week, I had 5 names. 5 people she'd drained dry with a different sob story every time: cancer, sick mother, cruel boss, stolen purse. It didn't matter. She knew exactly what lie would open which wallet. With every name, my rage hardened. But I was careful not to let it blind me. I gathered screenshots, bank transfer slips, old messages. I saved them all in a folder on my desktop named Justice. It felt childish and dramatic, but it made me feel like I was finally pulling her mask off, piece by piece. When I felt ready, I knew what the next step had to be. I had to meet her face to face. One last time. Pretend to be the same fool she'd counted on, and then watch her squirm when she realized her game was over. I spent the next few days rehearsing what I would say to Dasha when I saw her. I pictured myself calm, untouchable, a version of Alina who couldn't be lied to anymore. I wanted to look her in the eyes and see the moment she realized she'd lost control. I texted her on a Wednesday evening. Can we meet? I need to see you. I'm really worried. I added a crying emoji for good measure. It made me sick to type it, but I knew Dasha well enough to understand how to bait her. She replied almost instantly. Of course, sweetheart. Tomorrow? My place? Her place, the same tiny but stylish apartment she always claimed she could barely afford. I wondered if that was true or just another story. Maybe the landlord was just another person she'd conned, paying rent with someone else's pity. The next evening I stood outside her door, my heart thumping so loud I thought she'd hear it before I even knocked. I could hear faint music playing inside, laughter drifting from the TV. Normal life. Ordinary. Lies stitched into the walls like wallpaper. She opened the door with her usual flourish, arms outstretched, fake warmth glowing in her eyes. She looked healthy, vibrant. Not a trace of the frail patient she described. Lena. You look so pale, honey. Are you okay? She cooed, pulling me inside before I could answer. Her living room smelled like expensive candles and freshly brewed coffee. A designer handbag lay on the sofa. Her laptop was open on the dining table, tabs full of online shopping sites. I forced myself to hug her back, inhaling her sweet perfume. How many people had she embraced with these same arms, whispering stories that never existed? I've just been so worried about you, I said, my voice trembling in just the right way. You never let me help you. I hate that you're alone in this. She pulled away, her eyes glistening with fake tears that made my skin crawl. Oh, baby. I'm okay. It's all so hard, but I'm fighting. You know I'm a fighter. We sat down at her kitchen table. She poured me coffee, sprinkled sugar in for me like she always did, the old rituals of trust that she twisted so easily. I took a sip to steady my shaking hands. I just wish you'd tell me more, I said softly. Which hospital? Which doctor? Maybe I can come with you next time. She cut me off with a flutter of her hand. No, no, no. It's too depressing, Lena. I don't want you to see me hooked up to machines, looking awful. Let's not talk about that now, please. Tell me about you, how's work? I wanted to slam my coffee mug in her face. Instead, I smiled and changed the subject. I played along, nodding at her small talk, pretending to be the same loyal fool she'd counted on. But inside, I was cataloging everything, the slip in her tone when she shut down my questions, the way she kept her phone face down on the table. After an hour, when she'd relaxed enough to start bragging about how she was thinking of getting a bigger place, the landlord's been so nice, maybe I'll buy him out, she said, laughing. I knew it was time to plant my seed. Dasha, I said suddenly, leaning closer, lowering my voice. You know I'd do anything for you, right? She blinked at me, her eyes narrowing a fraction. Of course I know that. I reached across the table and took her hand. She didn't pull away. I could feel the smooth skin, the perfectly manicured nails I'd paid for without knowing it. I told my parents about you. About how sick you are. They were so worried, they wanted to help too. They want to talk to your doctor. Maybe get you a specialist abroad. They said they'd pay for everything. Her smile froze. It was tiny, a flicker of panic she almost smothered, but I saw it. Oh, Lena, that's so sweet, but unnecessary. I'm actually doing better. The last scans were promising, so maybe I won't need more surgery after all. Really? I asked, eyes wide, voice sweet. That's wonderful. Can I see the scans? Or maybe I can come with you for the final test, just to be there for you, you know? The pause this time was longer. She pulled her hand away, tucking her hair behind her ear. A flicker of irritation slipped into her voice. Lena, I don't want to drag you into this more than I already have. I feel guilty enough that you gave me so much money. Please don't make me feel worse, okay? I leaned back, giving her an innocent smile. Of course. You're right. I'm sorry. I just love you so much. I hate feeling helpless. She exhaled, her shoulders loosening. She thought she'd shut me down. She thought I was still hers to mold. When I left her apartment an hour later, I hugged her at the door, pressing my cheek to hers. Rest well, Dasha. I'm here whenever you need me. Her lie was safe, or so she believed. But I walked down her hallway feeling a new certainty settle in my bones. She was cornered, whether she knew it yet or not. Outside, I called Katia. My voice was steady, my hands no longer shaking. We're doing this, I said. It's time we all talk. All of us, together. And she's going to be there, too. Katia didn't hesitate. Name the time and place. By the end of that week, I had 7 people on my list. 7 people with stories, receipts, screenshots. 7 people who'd believed in her lies, same as I had. Some were angrier than others. One man broke down on the phone, humiliated that he'd emptied his savings because he thought he was saving a dying friend. We met at a cafe on a rainy Saturday. Katia brought printouts, Ilya brought bank slips. We ordered bitter coffee and whispered our rage over sticky tables and cold pastries. Together we planned our next step, a trap she'd walk into with that same confident smile, and walk out of stripped bare. The cafe meeting turned into something more than just shared anger. It became a kind of group therapy for all of us, 7 people linked by one woman's careful cruelty. We sat hunched over our coffees, comparing the same tears, the same stories, the same phrases she'd used to make us feel special for helping her. By the time the rain outside stopped, our plan had taken shape. We weren't just going to confront Dasha privately, we were going to make her confess in front of the same friends she'd fooled so easily. No more half-truths whispered in private. This time the lies would die in the light. We agreed on a simple idea, a surprise party. Or rather, a fake one. I told the others I'd handle inviting Dasha. I'd tell her I wanted to celebrate her good news, the miraculous recovery she'd hinted at to shut me up. I'd say I wanted all her old friends there, people she hadn't seen in months. She'd come, of course. She loved nothing more than the spotlight, the stage she built out of our sympathy. When I got home that night, I sat at my desk with a blank sheet of paper. I started writing down names, people from college, old coworkers, mutual friends, the ones who'd flooded her comments with "Stay strong, Angel." I found them all on social media. Some I hadn't spoken to in years, but that didn't matter. My message was warm, excited, just the right amount of vague. Hey. Dasha's been through so much, but there's good news, she's recovering. I want to surprise her with a little get-together next Friday. Just close friends. She'd love to see you. Almost everyone said yes. They remembered Dasha the same way I once did, the charming girl with a sharp laugh and bright eyes. They all wanted to believe the best. A few even offered to bring flowers, cakes, gifts. They had no idea what kind of show they were about to watch. When I messaged Dasha, her response was instant, glittering with fake humility. "Oh, Lena, you're too sweet. But you don't have to, I don't deserve all this." "You do," I wrote back. "You deserve everything. You fought so hard." She agreed to come without hesitation. She asked what to wear, something nice? Or casual? I told her to wear whatever made her feel beautiful. I wanted her to walk in looking like the perfect actress she was. The next few days felt like living inside a lie of my own. At work, I answered emails and scheduled meetings, all the while checking my phone for replies from people confirming they'd come. At night, I went over the plan with Katia and Ilya until we knew every step by heart. I even called my parents and told them I was finally taking time for myself. They had no idea what was really happening, that their daughter was about to tear a hole through a web of lies so wide it might swallow her too. When Friday came, I booked a cozy private room at a little wine bar downtown. Soft lights, velvet chairs, cheap white wine, the kind of place Dasha loved for its air of effortless class. I made sure there was enough space for everyone. The others arrived first, Katia, Ilya, the others she'd burned. We kept to one corner, quiet, pretending to be just other guests. One by one, the invited friends trickled in too, arms full of cake boxes and bottles of Prosecco, bright smiles on their faces. They laughed and hugged each other, whispering about how glad they were that Dasha was doing so well. If any of them noticed the tightness in our smiles, they didn't say. Finally, 10 minutes late, perfectly timed for the grand entrance, Dasha arrived. She wore a pale pink dress, her hair curled perfectly, lipstick fresh. She looked like the heroine of her own tragedy, reborn and radiant. When she stepped into the room and everyone shouted surprise, she gasped, covering her mouth with one delicate hand. Tears shimmered in her eyes, tears she could summon on command like a magician pulling rabbits from hats. "Oh my God, Lena," she squealed, rushing to hug me. "You did this? For me?" I hugged her back, feeling her warmth like poison. "Of course. You deserve it." She flitted around the room then, hugging old friends, thanking them for coming, weaving her way through the small crowd like a queen greeting loyal subjects. They asked gentle questions. "How are you feeling now? Are you cured?" And she answered with well-rehearsed sighs and vague words. "Better every day, the worst is behind me." I couldn't have done it without my amazing friends. She even glanced at me sometimes, her eyes soft with gratitude. She truly believed she'd won. That I'd given up, forgiven her, wrapped my betrayal in tissue paper and tied it with a ribbon. When everyone had a glass of wine in hand, I tapped my spoon on my glass. The small room fell quiet. Dasha turned to me, her eyes shining. "Everyone, thank you for coming tonight," I began, my voice steady. I could feel Katia's eyes on me from the back of the room. Ilya shifted closer to the door, ready to block any attempt by Dasha to flee. "You all know why we're here, to celebrate Dasha's recovery. She's been so brave, so strong. She told us she fought through so much pain. That she needed us. And we were all there for her, in every way we could be. Right?" There were soft nods, murmurs of course. Dasha smiled, a hand pressed modestly to her chest. She thought this was her final applause. I set my glass down, folding my hands in front of me. My voice dropped just enough to shift the room's warmth into something colder. "And I just thought, tonight is the perfect time for her to tell all of you the truth." The smile on Dasha's face froze like a mask of glass. Her eyes darted to mine, confusion flickering into panic. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. I took a step closer, my heartbeat so loud I could barely hear my own words. Go on, Dasha. Tell them. Tell them how you used my money for your surgery. How you bought a new car instead. The room fell silent, the soft music from the speakers suddenly too loud. A few people laughed awkwardly, thinking it was a joke. But then Katia stepped forward, holding up a sheet of paper, the printout of her bank transfer. Tell them about my money too, Dasha, she said, her voice sharp. And my mom's fake surgery. Dasha's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. Her eyes darted to the door, to the windows, to the floor, anywhere but at us. And just like that, the mask began to crack. For a heartbeat, the room was frozen in the hush that comes when something polite and lovely shatters into something raw and real. The soft clink of a wine glass being set down felt deafening. Dasha's eyes flicked from face to face, a cornered fox, still calculating which lie might save her this time. Her mouth twitched, and then her lips spread into a trembling smile. Lena, what are you talking about? She laughed, but it was too thin, too sharp at the edges. Katia, what is this? Are you drunk? Katia didn't flinch. She stepped forward, holding the printout higher so everyone could see the neat rows of digits. You told me your mother was dying, Dasha. I emptied my savings for you. You promised you'd pay it back when she recovered, only she never needed surgery, did she? A ripple went through the small crowd, whispers, glances, people shifting uncomfortably. A man from the back, Ilya, spoke next. He raised his voice just enough to slice through Dasha's feeble laughter. She did the same to me. Said she'd been fired unfairly, needed help with rent. I gave her 50,000. Never saw it again. Dasha's smile vanished. Her eyes darted to me, searching for a lifeline. Lena, you know me. You know I'd never. They're confused, they're lying, they. Are we? I interrupted. I stepped closer until we were face to face. I could see her makeup cracking at the corners of her eyes. Tell them about the money I gave you, Dasha. The surgery you needed so desperately. The surgery that was really a brand new SUV. Someone gasped. Someone else muttered, what? A single word heavy with disbelief. She took a step back, her shoulders brushing against the edge of the table. I don't know what you're talking about, she whispered. Her voice was shaking now, not with grief this time, but with anger. You're lying, Lena. You've always been jealous, you can't stand to see me happy. It was almost funny, hearing her throw that last card down like it might still work. The desperate shift, from poor, sick victim to outraged innocent. I wanted to spit in her face. Instead, I stepped aside and gestured to Katia. Katia pulled out her phone and opened a folder. She turned the screen so everyone could see. Photo after photo, Dasha sipping lattes at fancy cafes, shopping bags on her arm, keys to her new car dangling from her manicured fingers. Dates and times neatly lined up. While she was supposedly fighting for her life, she'd been living large on our pity. A woman near the back, Anya, an old classmate, pressed her fingers to her lips. Is this real? She asked, her voice small. Dasha, tell me this isn't real. Dasha's eyes filled with tears. Real or fake, it didn't matter anymore. The room was no longer hers to manipulate. I had to, she burst out suddenly. The words tumbled out, ugly and raw. You think it's easy, living like I do? I needed help, you all have money, you don't even feel it. I deserved it, after everything I've done for all of you. She was unraveling so fast she didn't even see it. The truth she'd fought to bury was spilling out in broken fragments, anger wrapped around every word. You let me believe you were dying, I said quietly. My voice barely rose above the hush, but it cut through her rant like a blade. I canceled my trip. I emptied my savings. I lied to my parents. All for you. Her eyes snapped to mine, full of hate now, pure and unfiltered. There it was, the real Dasha. The one who could cry on command, kiss your cheek while she stole your wallet. I never asked you to, she hissed. You chose to. You think you're so righteous, you think you're better than me. Enough, Katia snapped. Her voice trembled, but her spine was straight as a steel rod. We have proof. We have messages, transfers, photos. Do you want us to show everyone else? Or do you want to confess yourself? The small crowd shifted again. A couple of people pulled out their phones, recording, texting others. Dasha's eyes darted from one glowing screen to the next. She realized then, maybe for the first time, that the lie was too big to contain. "I'll pay you back," she whispered. Her voice cracked. "I swear, I'll get the money, just give me time." "Time's up," Ilya said coldly. "You've had years." Someone near the bar laughed, sharp, humorless. A nervous reaction, maybe, but it was enough to send Dasha's last shreds of dignity spinning away. She looked at me one last time, tears rolling down her cheeks now for real. But there was no pity left in me. I saw only the echo of every night I'd stayed up worrying about her fake disease, every plan I'd abandoned for her phantom survival. "I trusted you," I said. "You don't get to ask for anything anymore." She lunged forward like she might grab my hands, beg, but I stepped back. Her fingers hung in the air, trembling. Slowly, she turned and looked around the room she'd once owned with her smile and easy charm. She saw only stone faces. No pity. No arms to run into. No soft landing. I didn't have to say another word. Dasha's confession was done, not the neat, polite version we dreamed of, but raw, messy, undeniable. She'd spilled her own poison for everyone to see. And in that silence that settled after her words, something inside me uncoiled at last. I wasn't the fool anymore. No one moved for a few seconds after Dasha's outburst. Her tears shone in the soft light, mascara running in thin black rivers down her cheeks. She looked smaller now, shrunken inside her expensive dress, clutching the edge of the table like it might keep her from slipping straight through the floor. I could almost feel it, the moment the room flipped, when even the ones who'd come with cakes and flowers realized they weren't here for a celebration, but for an execution. Social, cold, final. Anya stepped forward first. She was the gentle one, the one who'd always taken Dasha's side in every fight, every breakup, every drama. She looked at Dasha now with an expression I'd never seen on her before, calm disappointment, like a mother staring at a child's broken toy. "You could have asked for help, Dasha," Anya said softly. "Real help. But you lied. Again and again. Do you have any idea what that means?" Dasha shook her head, the first sob escaping her lips. "I did need help, you don't understand. I didn't have anything." Katya's voice sliced through the babble. "You had us. You had friends. You could have told the truth. We all would have found a way. Instead, you made up mothers in hospital beds, tumors, operations, all to buy yourself toys and fake dreams." Behind Katya, Ilya pulled out his phone. He scrolled through something and then raised his head. "You know what's worse, Dasha? We thought maybe we'd find one lie. One desperate moment. But this is your pattern. It's who you are." He turned the screen so she could see. He'd pulled up a message thread with another victim we'd only found 2 nights before. A girl named Marina, one of Dasha's old co-workers from a design agency. Marina hadn't come tonight, she was too ashamed. But she'd sent screenshots, Dasha borrowing money for a stolen laptop, claiming she'd been robbed by an ex. Another 1,000 gone into the same black hole. Dasha looked at the phone, her eyes darting over the words. I could see her mind working, reaching for the next lie, the next tiny hook to pull us back under. But there was nothing left to hook into. One of the others, Anton, who'd mostly stayed silent, spoke up now, his arms crossed tight. "You didn't just take our money. You made us feel guilty for even asking about it. You turned every question back on us, like we were monsters for wanting to know where our money went." He shook his head slowly. "You're poison, Dasha. And you used every single one of us." Her shoulders curled forward. Her hands trembled as she tried to wipe her cheeks. The room was so quiet I could hear the soft hum of the bar fridge behind the counter. Outside the private room, I imagined the rest of the world going on, people clinking glasses, lovers laughing over dinner, no idea there was an execution happening just beyond the door. Finally, she looked at me. Just me. Her eyes were wide, raw, no longer performing for an audience. Just for me, the last person she'd thought would ever turn on her. "Lena, please," she whispered. My name on her lips tasted rotten now. "You know me. You know I didn't mean it like this. I was desperate. You're my best friend. You can forgive me, right? Tell them. Tell them I'm not bad." I stared at her, feeling the weight of every sleepless night, every tear I'd shed over her made-up tragedies. I thought of my cancelled trip, the cold noodles on the counter that night I'd promised her everything I had. The new car gleaming under the streetlight while my dreams rusted in her shadow. No, I said. Quiet, but final. I don't know you. Not anymore. She let out a sound, part sob, part laugh, like she couldn't decide whether to plead or scream. Katia stepped up, placing a hand on my shoulder. Her voice was steel. You're going to pay every single one of us back. All of it. And you're going to do it fast, or we take this to the police. And to everyone who still believes your stories. We have the proof, Dasha. You can't talk your way out of this anymore. For the first time, real fear flickered in Dasha's eyes. Police? You wouldn't, it was just borrowing, it's not. Ilya barked a laugh. Fraud is fraud. Or do you want to explain to a judge how your tumors turned into an SUV? The room shifted then, people gathering bags, pulling coats from chairs. The warmth was gone, replaced by a cold, sharp buzz of anger and something almost like relief. One by one, they brushed past Dasha like she was just furniture now, a thing to be avoided, forgotten, left behind. Anya stopped in front of her, looking at the ruin of the girl she'd once called her sister. She said nothing, just shook her head once and walked out. Katia squeezed my arm before following. Call me if she tries anything, she murmured. We're not done yet. Ilya lingered just long enough to drop a folded piece of paper on the table in front of Dasha, an envelope with a typed list of every debt, every name, every sum she owed. No drama, no chance to twist it into a new story. Just cold, clear math. When they were all gone, it was just me and her. The girl I'd once told my secrets to at 3 a.m. The girl I'd trusted more than family. She opened her mouth again, her voice breaking. Lena, please. I picked up my coat. My hands didn't shake. I felt light, empty, like someone who'd finally cut a dead weight off her chest. You'll find a way to pay, I said. You always find a way. That's what you're good at, isn't it? She didn't answer. She just sat there, mascara dripping onto the pink silk she'd worn to play the heroine. When I stepped out into the street, the summer air hit me like a baptism. The city felt different, sharper, clearer, cleaner. I'd thought I'd feel sad, maybe even guilty. But all I felt was free. I turned my phone on and sent a single message to the group chat we'd made, it's done. The days after the party felt strange, like I'd stepped out of my old life and left some ghost of myself sitting in that wine bar with Dasha's crocodile tears dripping onto her designer dress. For the first time in years, my phone didn't light up with her messages at odd hours. I need you, can you help, I'm so scared. Silence replaced that constant hum of emergency she'd built around herself, and the quiet felt like standing in sunlight after too many winters. Katia called me the morning after. Her voice was tight but bright, we were all lighter now, connected in a new way by the wreckage she'd left behind. Did she message you? She asked. No. You? Nothing. I think she knows she can't twist this one around anymore. We agreed not to wait for her to do the right thing. We knew Dasha. Guilt wouldn't change her, only exposure and fear could. So we sent out the truth. Carefully, methodically, we made sure the same friends who had posted "Stay Strong, Queen" would see exactly what their brave little heroine had done. Katia drafted a post, cold, clear, no spite, just facts. Screenshots. Bank statements. The photo of Dasha leaning on her new car, the timestamps matching the days she'd sent me messages about another biopsy. Ilya found a way to slip it into the alumni group chat from our university, the same one Dasha liked to pop into when she needed a new victim to admire her resilience. The ripple was instant. Shock, disbelief, then rage. Some people tried to defend her at first. Maybe there's another side to this. Maybe she really needed help. But the screenshots burned away all excuses. Dasha didn't have another side, she was exactly what we'd shown them. It was brutal, yes. But it was necessary. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about making sure she couldn't do this again. And as word spread, more names came forward. A guy she'd dated briefly messaged Ilya, she'd borrowed money for rent, claimed an abusive landlord had locked her out. Another old co-worker. An ex-classmate who'd wired her cash for a hospital deposit when she claimed to have a car accident abroad. The lies piled up like a rotten house of cards. By the end of that week, there were 11 people in the group chat. 11 stories. 11 debts. The final total was bigger than any of us had guessed. She tried to talk to some of them, I knew, because she messaged Katia one night. The message was a screenshot we all passed around like a ghost story. If you keep pushing this, I'll tell everyone what you did too. The threat was pathetic, vague, aimed to scatter guilt like birdseed. But no one fell for it anymore. Katia just left her on scene. At work, I caught myself watching people more closely. Who else lies like Dasha? Who else could spin a tale so perfect you'd forget to check the facts? I hated that she'd planted that seed in me, that whisper of suspicion where once I'd trusted blindly. But maybe it wasn't so bad, I told myself. Maybe a bit of armor was better than the wound she'd left. My parents called too. They'd heard a hint of it through a friend. Small towns and old networks move news faster than the internet sometimes. Are you okay? My mother asked. Her voice was worried, gentle. I'm fine, I said. And for the first time, it wasn't a lie. Do you want us to help you get the money back? No, Mama. I'll handle it. You always do, she said, soft and proud, even if she didn't know the whole story. Dasha didn't pay us back right away, of course. There were excuses at first. Her bank was frozen, she needed time to sell the car, she didn't have enough right now. But we pushed. Ilya found a lawyer friend who drafted a simple agreement for everyone. Sign here, pay back by this date, or we file charges for fraud. No drama, no more teary calls at midnight. Just paperwork, deadlines, consequences. When she finally transferred the first chunk of money, Katia called me, breathless with relief. She's cracking, she said. Piece by piece. It didn't happen overnight. She stalled, begged for extensions, offered tiny partial payments hoping someone would fold and accept less. But none of us did. We had each other now, a little army forged from her betrayal. Whenever one of us felt tempted to give in, the rest pulled them back, no pity left for her. Not anymore. I wish I could say the city cared, that everyone blacklisted her forever. But real life is messier than that. Some people drifted back to her orbit, drawn by her old charm, her familiar tricks. But fewer than before. Much fewer. And those who stayed knew her mask could slip at any moment. They'd always wonder what story she'd tell next, and if they'd be the next name on our list. I checked her social media once, weeks later. She'd wiped it clean, no dramatic goodbye, just gone. As if she'd never existed. I wondered where she'd go next, which city would be her next stage. Maybe she'd change her name. Maybe she'd find new believers. Maybe one day someone else would message me, do you know Dasha? And I'd tell them everything. She'd taken something from me, yes. My savings. My trust. My dream vacation that never happened. But in the space she hollowed out, she left something too, a fierce clarity I'd never had before. The others felt it too. We still met for coffee sometimes, the little club of the cond. We laughed about it now, a bitter kind of laughter, but real. We told each other what we'd do with our money once it came back, pay off loans, take trips, fix old cars, fix ourselves. Dasha had tried to steal more than our money, she tried to rewrite our stories into her tragedy. But we'd reclaimed them, one by one, word by word. Life didn't magically fix itself once Dasha was out of it. The money didn't flood back overnight like a dam breaking, it trickled in, grudgingly, every payment like pulling teeth. But each small deposit felt like a stitch closing a wound she'd left open for too long. When the first big transfer hit my account, I sat staring at the screen for a long time. It wasn't even half of what she owed me, but it was proof. Proof she'd been forced to give something back. Proof that the lies hadn't swallowed me whole. I didn't splurge when it arrived. I didn't book a plane ticket to Greece the next day. I made myself wait, watch it sit there, a quiet reminder that what she stole didn't define me anymore. Whiskey curled up next to my laptop, purring like he knew the balance was no longer empty. The group chat stayed alive long after the worst was over. It turned into something more than a place for complaints and bank transfer receipts. We talked about our jobs, our families, our stupid daily inconveniences. Small things. Real things. Katia would send photos of her cat tangled in receipts and legal letters, joking that he was the real debt collector. Ilya once snapped a picture of himself standing outside Dasha's apartment building, not to harass her, just to remind himself he could stand there now without feeling like prey. Once, I asked them, do you think she'll really stop? Ilya answered first, no. But she'll have to work a lot harder now. Katya chimed in, or maybe we slowed her down just long enough for someone else to see through her. I didn't know what I wanted to believe. Part of me wanted her to disappear into some small life where she'd never have the chance to bleed anyone dry again. But another part, the darker, more honest part, hoped she'd try her tricks on someone stronger next time. Someone who wouldn't just demand money back, but burn every bridge she touched. There were days I'd catch myself wanting to check her old profiles, hoping for a sign. Had she left town? Started over? Sometimes I imagined her in some cheap apartment, no flowers from adoring friends, no glittering parties paid for with someone else's dreams. Just Dasha and her own reflection, the only person left to lie to. Other days I didn't think about her at all. Those were the best days. I took small steps first. I booked a weekend at a local spa, not Greece yet, but a promise to myself that I hadn't forgotten what it felt like to dream about warm sun and clear water. I sat by the pool with a trashy paperback and a glass of cheap wine, and for the first time in months, I felt normal. Whole. At work, I said no more often. When a coworker asked if I could cover her shift at the last minute, her dog was sick, her aunt was in the hospital, I smiled politely and said, I hope she's okay, but I can't. I didn't feel guilty. Dasha had burned that out of me, too. One rainy Thursday, Katya invited me out for drinks. We sat in the corner of a noisy pub, half listening to the music, half watching the door. She nudged me at one point and said, I still think you should go to Greece, you know. I laughed into my glass. Soon. I'm saving up again. This time, I'll get there because I chose to, not because someone's tragedy guilt-tripped me out of my own plans. She raised her glass to mine. To tragedies we don't pay for anymore. The clink of glass felt better than any apology Dasha could ever give. A week later, I got an email from Dasha's lawyer, or so he claims to be. Polite, cold, pretending to be neutral, my client wishes to finalize repayments in a single lump sum. There was some flowery excuse about emotional distress and how she wanted to move on. I read it 3 times, then forwarded it to the group with a single word, thoughts? Ilya was blunt, she wants to pay you off so you'll shut up. Make her sign everything. No gaps. Katya, she wants you quiet. Don't give her that. But take the money. I didn't reply to her lawyer. I spoke to mine instead, a friend of Ilya's friend, who drafted a new agreement. She'd pay every kopeck. No delays, no loopholes. If she failed, we'd file charges immediately. I signed the document with a steady hand. When the final payment hit my account 2 weeks later, I sat at my kitchen table for a long time, listening to Whiskey's sleepy snores. I thought I'd feel triumphant, like a movie ending with a big swelling score. But what I really felt was something smaller, better, a quiet click inside my chest where something broken had finally slotted back into place. I was whole again, not because Dasha gave me back my money, but because she no longer had any piece of me left to steal. The final payment cleared on a Monday morning, as ordinary as spilled coffee and half-hearted meetings. I remember opening my banking app in the break room at work, a stale donut in one hand, phone in the other. There it was. The whole sum, sitting there in black and white like it should have always been mine. I stared at it for a long moment, half expecting it to vanish again if I blinked. But it stayed. Solid. Real. Proof that, for once, Dasha couldn't slip away into another excuse, another tragedy. I didn't tell anyone at work why I was suddenly grinning at my phone like an idiot. I just went back to my desk, answered emails, took calls. Normal life. Except it wasn't normal, not quite, not anymore. Something had shifted under my skin. I didn't rush to spend it. Maybe part of me wanted to make sure it really stayed mine. I watched the numbers sit there, untouched, while I made lists in the Notes app on my phone, destinations, hotels, the best time of year to stand on a white sand beach and feel no one else's weight on my shoulders. That week, Katya invited everyone for dinner, the whole unlikely group, all the people Dasha had bound together by stealing from us one by one. We met in a cheap Georgian cafe with battered wooden tables and the smell of fresh khachapuri floating through the air. No drama this time. Just relief. Laughter that wasn't bitter anymore. Katya raised her glass halfway through the meal, cheap red wine that stained her lips deep berry. To Dasha, she said, her voice dripping sarcasm. We laughed, really laughed this time. Not because we forgave her. Not because we pitied her, but because we'd survived her. Ilya leaned back in his chair and said, "Think she'll try it again?" Anton, who'd barely spoken all evening, shrugged. "If she does, someone else will catch her. She's not as clever as she thinks she is." Katya grinned at me over her glass. "She underestimated you most of all, Alina." That stuck with me later, as I lay in bed with whiskey pressed against my side. I thought about how easy it had been, at first, to trust Dasha's tears, her trembling voice, her perfect little tragedies. I'd wanted so badly to be the good friend, the rescuer. The one who'd drop everything to prove I was loyal. Maybe I was still that person, deep down, the one who'd give you everything if you asked the right way. But now I'd learned something Dasha could never take back, that I could be generous and ruthless, kind and sharp. I could still care about people, but I didn't have to bleed for them when they didn't deserve it. The day after that dinner, I booked my flight. One ticket. One seat on a plane bound for Athens, connecting to Santorini. The same dream Dasha's lie had stolen from me, now mine again, fully, without apology. When I clicked confirm, I felt no guilt. No flicker of her voice in my head, "Are you sure you can afford that? Shouldn't you help me instead?" She was gone. Just silence now. Sweet, unbroken silence. I didn't tell many people I was leaving, not at first. My parents knew, of course. My mother's voice sparkled with relief when I called. "I'm glad you're doing this for yourself," she said. "I should have done it years ago. But maybe you wouldn't have really enjoyed it then," she said gently. "Now you'll know you earned every moment." A week before my flight, I checked Dasha's old accounts out of curiosity. She deleted most of her social media, but someone tagged her by accident, an old party photo, her face half shadowed behind a raised glass. I stared at it for a moment. There she was, the girl who could convince you the sky was green if it meant you'd empty your pockets for her. But the photo didn't make my stomach twist anymore. I didn't feel rage or pity. Just distance, like looking at a ghost you'd already buried. I closed the app and never checked again. The night before I left for Greece, Katya dropped by my apartment with a bottle of cheap champagne. We sat on my couch with whiskey curled between us, watching the bubbles fizz out in mismatched mugs. "When you get there," she said, tipsy and warm, "promise me one thing." "What?" "Don't think about her at all. Not for 1 second. No memory. No bitterness. Just blue water and sunburn and bad cocktails." I laughed. "Deal." I meant it. When I zipped my suitcase that night, I felt something shift in my chest again, that quiet click of an old wound healing over for good. Not perfect. Not clean. But closed. And if Dasha was out there somewhere, crafting her next sad story for someone new, that wasn't my problem anymore. She'd made her choices. And now, finally, so had I. I boarded the plane early in the morning, the airport still half asleep under the cold blue lights of dawn. For once, I didn't feel that old, guilty knot in my chest, the one that used to whisper you shouldn't spend this on yourself, someone else needs it more. Dasha's ghost had no seat on that flight. She stayed behind in the city she'd poisoned with her borrowed tragedies. I watched the sun rise through the small oval window, the sky burning pink and gold above the wings. I thought about how many nights I'd lain awake replaying her lies in my head, the phone calls, the sobs, the fake doctor's appointments. They felt so far away now. A different life. A bad dream that couldn't follow me to the white sands and clear water waiting at the end of this flight. When we landed in Athens, the heat wrapped around me like a welcome. I stood still in the arrivals hall, my bag slung over my shoulder, just breathing it in, the bright, salty promise of the Aegean. Nobody here knew my story. Nobody here cared who I'd been or who'd hurt me. Here, I wasn't the girl who'd been tricked. I was just a woman with a plane ticket and a blank page. I took a small ferry to Santorini, just me, a battered backpack, and my battered but healing heart. The wind whipped my hair around my face as the island rose on the horizon, all whitewashed walls, blue domes, steps that twisted like a maze down cliffs and into the sea. I felt light for the first time in years, really light. Like I'd put down something too heavy to carry and left it behind for good. My hotel was tiny and bright, tucked into a quiet alley. The balcony overlooked the caldera, a view I'd promised myself long ago, when I first saved for this trip before Dasha's lie stole it from me. I unpacked slowly, savoring each moment. No calls, no fake emergencies. Just the sun outside and the soft knock of my suitcase against the stone floor. The first morning, I woke up to the sea. No alarm. No vibration of a message from someone telling me their world was ending, needing my time, my money, my heart. Just the sea. I made coffee, drank it barefoot on the balcony, watching the white boats drift like toys across the blue. For the first time, I let myself imagine how things could have been. If Dasha had told the truth. If she'd asked for help instead of spinning tragedies like spiderwebs. If she'd been my friend the way I'd been hers. But then I let that thought drift out over the caldera, dissolving into the salt wind. It didn't matter anymore. What was done was done. I wasn't here for what ifs. I was here for what now. I spent days wandering the narrow streets, ducking into tiny shops for cheap bracelets and fresh figs. I took the bus to a pebbled beach where I lay in the sun until my skin burned pink. I let myself be lazy, alone, content. I let myself be a stranger to everyone. Free of Dasha. Free of her voice in my head. Free of the part of me that had once needed to be needed so badly I'd emptied my life for someone who saw it as hers to spend. One night, I sat in a tiny taverna by the cliff's edge. The sunset turned the white houses gold, then pink, then a bruised purple that matched the wine in my glass. I pulled out my phone and opened the old group chat, Katya, Ilya, the others. The little club Dasha had forged by stealing from us. The club she'd never belonged to. I snapped a photo of the view, sea and sky, wine and sunset, and sent it with 2 words, I'm here. Katya's reply came first, finally. Proud of you. Ilya, bring us back souvenirs. Anton, who barely spoke even now, drink one for me. I laughed alone at my table, tipsy and sunburned, a little bit braver than I'd ever been before. The strangers at the next table lifted their glasses to me when I caught their eyes. They didn't know me, didn't know my story. And that was perfect. When I got back to my tiny hotel room that night, I lay on the bed with the balcony doors open, the sea breathing in and out below. I thought about how easy it had been for Dasha to write her lies over my life. How long it took to scrub the ink out. But I'd done it. Page by page, word by word. She'd lost. Not because she paid me back, not because she was shamed, but because she couldn't touch me anymore. My life was mine again. My dreams, my money, my stories. All mine. Before I drifted to sleep, I pictured her for the last time, her perfect half-smile, her tearful eyes, her soft voice promising it's not what you think. And then I pictured myself, standing across from her in that wine bar, saying no more. That was the ending. No sequels. No haunting. I fell asleep to the sound of the sea, my passport tucked into my bag, my next dream already half-formed. No tragedy. No rescue. Just me. Alina, 32, a little wiser, a little harder to fool. And finally, free.